The unbreakable empire, the Krathan hegemony, had ruled for 5,000 years without a single defeat. Their crystalline ships moved through space like shards of frozen starlight, each vessel a monument to their technological superiority. In the command sphere of the flagship Eternal Supremacy, High Executor Morvic floated in zero gravity, his elongated body wrapped in living metal that responded to his thoughts. Morvic's species had evolved beyond the need for vocal communication. Their minds connected directly through quantum entanglement, sharing thoughts faster than light itself. His forearms moved in practiced patterns, manipulating holographic displays that showed the vast expanse of their empire. 312 species served under Krathan rule. Some had joined willingly, seeing the benefits of their advanced technology. Most had been conquered, their worlds transformed into resource centers for the ever-expanding hegemony. The silence of the command sphere was broken by a pulse of thought from Sub-Commander Yithan. Her consciousness touched Morvic's mind like ice against warm skin. High Executor, we have received the scouting report from Sector 9847. The new species has been catalogued. Morvic's consciousness expanded to absorb the data. A small system, with a yellow star, 9 planets orbiting in predictable patterns. The third planet showed signs of advanced biological life. The species called themselves humans. They had achieved basic spaceflight only recently, perhaps 200 years ago by their own time measurement. Their technology was primitive, based on controlled explosions and electromagnetic manipulation. Have they been offered the standard terms of submission? Morvic's thought rippled through the quantum network. Yes, High Executor. Ambassador Ketrin delivered our requirements personally. They would maintain local governance under our oversight. Their resources would be shared with the hegemony. Their brightest minds would be educated in our academies. Standard integration protocol. Morvic waited for the rest of the report. When Yithan hesitated, he knew something unusual had occurred. In 5 millennia of expansion, the Krathan had developed protocols for every possible response from newly discovered species. Some fought briefly before surrendering. Others attempted to negotiate better terms. A few tried to hide or flee. All eventually accepted their place in the natural order of the galaxy. Their response was unexpected. Yithan finally continued. They listened to our terms without interruption. They asked no questions. When Ambassador Ketrin finished, their representative stood from his chair, looked directly at our delegation, and spoke a single word in their language. Our translators indicate it means no. Morvic's forearms stopped moving. The holographic displays froze in place. Throughout the command sphere, every Krathan officer turned their attention to their leader. No species had ever simply refused. It was not done. It was not possible. Perhaps they misunderstood, Morvic suggested, though he knew the universal. Translators were perfect. Send another delegation. Explain the consequences of refusal. 3 weeks passed in Krathan time. The second delegation returned with video recordings. Morvic watched as the human representative, a female of their species with short grey hair and steady eyes, listened to the enhanced explanation. The Krathan diplomat showed her images of worlds that had resisted. Burning cities, scattered populations, broken civilizations rebuilt under Krathan guidance. The human watched without flinching. "We understand perfectly," she said when the presentation ended. "Our answer remains no. We will not serve. We will not submit. We will defend ourselves. If necessary." Morvic felt something he had not experienced in 3 centuries of life. It was not quite anger, not quite confusion. It was more like curiosity mixed with indignation. These humans possessed technology that the Krathen had surpassed 2,000 years ago. Their ships were metal boxes pushed by chemical reactions. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles and crude nuclear devices. They had no energy shields, no quantum computers, no mastery over gravity or time. "Prepare the Annihilation Fleet," Morvik commanded through the network. "If they choose extinction over servitude, we will grant their wish." The Annihilation Fleet was not the largest force in the Krathen military, but it was the most feared. 20 vessels, each one capable of cracking a moon in half. They had not been deployed in 800 years, not since the Vorthan Rebellion. That conflict had lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 3 Vorthan worlds were nothing but asteroid fields, and the rebellion died with them. Morvik took personal command of the fleet. He wanted to understand these humans who dared refuse the inevitable. As the crystalline ships gathered at the edge of Krathen space, he studied every piece of intelligence they had gathered. Humans were bipedal, relatively fragile, with short lifespans. They required specific atmospheric conditions to survive. They reproduced slowly compared to many species. By every metric the Krathen used to evaluate threats, humans ranked near the bottom, yet something about them disturbed Morvik's perfect logic. Their history showed a pattern of survival against overwhelming odds. They had nearly destroyed themselves multiple times with nuclear weapons, biological plagues, and environmental collapse. Each time, they had recovered and grown stronger. They fought among themselves constantly, yet united instantly when faced with external threats. The journey to the Sol system took 40 cycles. The Krathen fleet emerged from hyperspace beyond the orbit of the outermost planet, a frozen world. The humans called Neptune. Morvik wanted the humans to see them coming. Fear was a tool as powerful as any weapon. High Executor, Subcommander Yithan reported, "We are detecting human vessels throughout the system. They appear to be taking defensive positions." Morvik examined the tactical display. 37 human ships had spread across the inner system. They were laughably small, the largest barely 500 meters long. Most appeared to be converted civilian vessels with weapons hastily attached. They had positioned themselves at Lagrange points and orbital stations, creating overlapping fields of fire that would be effective against enemies of their own technological level. "Send the final ultimatum," Morvik ordered. "Give them one rotation of their planet to reconsider." The message was transmitted on all frequencies. Morvik himself appeared in the transmission, his crystalline form reflecting light in patterns that most species found both beautiful and terrifying. He spoke through the translator, his words measured and final. "Humans of Earth, I am High Executor Morvik of the Krathen hegemony. You have refused our generous offer of integration. You have chosen conflict with a power that has never known defeat. Look upon our fleet and understand your position. You have 24 of your hours to transmit your surrender. After that time, we will demonstrate the cost of defiance. One of your cities will be eliminated every hour until you submit or until none of you remain. This is not a negotiation. This is a final mercy." The response came not from Earth, but from a human ship positioned near the planet they called Mars. The transmission showed a human male in a black uniform. His face bore scars from old battles, and his eyes held no fear. "High Executor Morvik," the human said. "I am Admiral Chen Wei, Commander of United Earth Defense. We have heard your ultimatum. We have seen your fleet. We know what you are capable of doing. Our answer has not changed. It will never change. We are humans. We do not kneel. The breaking point 24 hours passed. The Krathan fleet began its approach toward Earth, moving in perfect formation. Their crystalline hulls caught the light of Sol, creating a display that would have been beautiful if not for its terrible purpose. Morvick watched the human ships adjust their positions, trying to create better defensive angles against an enemy they could not hope to defeat. Target their largest city for the first demonstration, Morvick commanded. Use a focused graviton beam. Leave nothing but a crater. The Eternal Supremacy began charging its main weapon. Energy coursed through crystalline channels, building to levels that could tear apart molecular bonds. The target was locked, a sprawling metropolis on Earth's northern hemisphere with a population of 20 million humans. Then something happened that the Krathan had not expected. Space itself seemed to ripple and tear 30,000 kilometers from their fleet. It started as a small distortion, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The distortion grew larger, spreading across the vacuum in patterns that violated known physics. From within the distortion emerged a ship unlike anything in human databases. It was massive, 3 kilometers long, but that was not what made Morvick's consciousness recoil. The ship was wrong. It hurt to perceive it directly. Its hull seemed to be made of compressed space-time, folded in on itself in impossible ways. Weapons ports opened and closed along its surface, like breathing pores. The entire vessel pulsed with energy signatures that the Krathan sensors could not properly analyze. What is that? Yithan's thought was sharp with confusion. Before Morvick could respond, the human admiral appeared on their communication systems again. This time he was smiling. "Hi, Executor. Allow me to introduce the TBS Prometheus. You see, we've been listening to the galaxy for a long time. We heard stories of your hegemony, your conquests, your belief that might makes right. We knew you would come for us eventually." The Prometheus moved forward, and reality bent around it. Krathan sensors screamed warnings that made no sense. The ship was there and not there, existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. When it fired its first weapon, it was not a beam or projectile. It was a wave of something that deleted space. Between 2 points, 3 Krathan vessels simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but edited out of reality as if they had never been. The crystalline shards that had been their hulls scattered across multiple dimensions, their crew's consciousness scattered across quantum states that no longer cohered. Impossible. Morvick's thought echoed through the fleet network. No species develops such technology in isolation. Admiral Chen's image appeared on every Krathan display simultaneously, a feat that should have been impossible given their quantum encryption. "You're right, High Executor. We didn't develop it alone. You see, humanity has a gift. We make friends. While your empire expanded through conquest, we sent messages of peace into the dark. We found others like us, species hiding from your hegemony, developing in secret, sharing knowledge through quantum networks you couldn't detect. The human fleet began to advance. Their small ships suddenly displayed capabilities that defied their appearance. Shields flickered into existence around them, not energy barriers, but folded space that redirected attacks into parallel dimensions. Their weapons fired projectiles that phased through Krathan shields as if they did not exist. The Vorthans survived. Chen continued. Some of them escaped your genocide, fled to dark space between galaxies. They remembered what you did. They found us 50 years ago, warned us you were coming. The Selenites, who you conquered 100 years ago, they never stopped resisting. They just got better at hiding it. They taught us about quantum consciousness, how to shield our thoughts from your network. The Prometheus fired again. This time, the weapon created a cascade. Failure in the crystalline matrix of a Krathan dreadnought. The ship began to transform, its crystal structure rearranging into patterns that broadcast pain across the quantum network. Every Krathan in the fleet felt their companion's agony as the ship's consciousness was rewritten, transformed into something that existed only to suffer. The Kaleri, the Bothans, the Yith, species you thought broken, they all contributed. Technologies hidden for centuries, knowledge preserved in quantum storage, resistant cells that never stopped fighting. They all waited for someone who could stand in the open and say no. That's what humans do, High Executor. We stand up, we say no, and we bring others with us. Morvick tried to organize his fleet's response, but the human attack was not just physical. Their ships broadcast something into the quantum network, not a virus or weapon, but stories. Millions of stories from conquered species, memories of freedom before the Krathon came, dreams of what they could be again. The younger Krathon, those who had never known anything but absolute victory, began to doubt. Some hesitated. In battle measured in nanoseconds, hesitation was death. You made a critical error, Chen said as the Prometheus moved toward the eternal supremacy. You believed fear was the only power that mattered. You never understood hope. Every species you conquered, every world you burned, they remembered, they hoped. And when humanity said no, that hope became rage. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, the entire Annihilation fleet was gone. Some ships were destroyed, others were disabled and captured. The eternal supremacy hung dead in space, its crystalline hull cracked and leaking atmosphere. Morvick floated in the ruined command sphere, his connection to the quantum network severed, his living metal armor now a prison. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the only functioning screen. Behind him stood beings from dozen different species, all wearing the same black uniforms with a simple emblem, a blue earth surrounded by stars. Your hegemony is finished, Chen said simply. The news of this defeat is already spreading through quantum networks you never knew existed. Every conquered world, every enslaved species, they're rising up. Your empire was built on the belief that you could never lose. That belief died today. Morvick found his voice, speaking aloud for the first time in centuries. The words came out rusty and strange. You had this power all along. Why reveal it now? Chen's expression grew serious. Because we weren't ready before. We needed time to prepare, to unite the resistance, to ensure that when your empire fell, something better would replace it. The Galactic Alliance has already been formed in secret, democratic, voluntary, based on mutual benefit rather than fear. Your former subjects have already begun voting to join. You planned this. You wanted us to come. Yes, your empire could only be broken from the inside by its own arrogance. You had to believe we were weak. You had to commit your forces based on that belief. And you had to lose publicly, dramatically, in a way that would echo across every world you've ever conquered. The Prometheus moved closer to the broken flagship. Its hull shifted and changed, revealing docking ports and medical bays. Human and alien medical teams prepared to board. What happens to us now? Morvick asked. That's your choice, Chen replied. The Alliance believes in redemption. Your species can join as equals, contributing your knowledge and technology to peaceful purposes, or you can isolate yourselves and fade into history. But your days of conquest are over. Humanity has entered the battlefield, High Executor, and we brought everyone you ever wronged with us. As rescue ships from dozens of species emerged from hidden positions throughout the Sol system, Morvic understood the truth. The Krathan hegemony had not been defeated by humanity alone. It had been defeated by its own legacy, by 5,000 years of oppression that had created an alliance of the desperate and determined. The humans had simply been the catalyst, the species too young and too stubborn to accept the inevitable. The empire that had stood for 5 millennia died in a single day, and from its ashes rose something new, something built not on fear but on a simple human word that had started it all. No, asterisk.